Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We were away yesterday, but back with another day of bets. We'll start off with what you have today, Korea.
Yeah, obviously, me personally, obviously, I had physical therapy the other day. But Ari did have a couple plays out yesterday on Twitter. If
Oh,
you
wait,
did
I
want to
forgot.
check it,
Oh, yeah, I
yeah,
forgot.
yeah, Ari did have Ari did have a couple plays on Twitter
Uh,
from yesterday.
I think it
If
was,
you
it
do
was
want,
1-1. Yeah, one and
yeah,
one.
1-on-1 day for him.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm back now. Obviously, just life sometimes gets in the way. But I do appreciate all the support from everybody. So just gonna get right into my picks today. Obviously, it's a weird day, in terms of value. There's a game that I like, but there's weather that's playing a factor in Cleveland, so I'm staying away from that game. But I'm going to target these. So first, we're going to target the Nationals and the Dodgers, and I'm taking the Dodgers first five minus half a run, pretty much just to lead by one. That's around minus 135 on DraftKings right now. And the only reason is because I'm fading Patrick Corbin. Look, Patrick Corbin is horrible, one of the worst pitchers for this Nationals rotation. And when we look at the last time, I believe Corbin pitched against this Dodgers team, and they lit him up early. And I think it's going to be another repeat of that. I was going to take this four. I was targeting this first five over in terms of the first five over 4.5. But when I was thinking about it a little more, I was not a big fan of I was not a big fan of James Paxton, or excuse me, having to fade him per se. He has the decent splits, I'd say, against this Nationals team. And the Nationals, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. And I didn't want to have to depend on a team, who I don't know is going to have to show up in this instance. But I know I'm going to have to depend on the Dodgers, who can show up every day. They do it all the time. Their lineup is one of the best in baseball. We talk about how their lineup, is just stacked from top to bottom, and they have great splits against Corbin. So I'm just targeting the first five because I think the Dodgers attack him early and get him out early. I've seen a lot of his stats. I've seen in terms of Corbin's numbers today, a lot of juice numbers for over on terms of hits allowed. I think it's like at 5.5, way juice on the over. His walks allowed 2.5 on the over. So books are saying that Patrick Corbin's going to struggle at home against a Dodgers team that obviously, has been shut out by this national teams in the past, but I expect the Dodgers to pretty much just get a lead through the first five. I was going to target the money line, but obviously way too juice. I really think the Dodgers get out to a lead throughout the first 5 innings, against this Nationals team. So I'm going to have to depend on James Paxton, even though he doesn't have the greatest splits against this Nationals team. He does have a good year. He does have good stats this season. It looks like he has rejuvenated his career down in LA. So I'm taking the Dodgers up through the first five minus half a run at minus 135. And I know the next one looks a little confusing, so I'll break it down for you. It's a little bit of a parlay uh, targeting the first five. These are my two favorite plays, but I didn't really know what to do with the Astros and Cubs just because it was so juiced. So here's what I did. We're going to the Rays game against the Tigers. We're going to go to the first five, but we're taking, instead of the Rays minus half run, we're going to go the Rays plus half a run, which is about minus 220, obviously. We're going to combine that in the parlay with the Astros and Cubs, first five over 4.5. That is plus 122 total on DraftKings for the two-leg parlay. I'll explain why I'm on those two in a second. The Rays first five. Look, the reason I'm targeting the Rays in this instant is because they got Ryan Pepiot on the mound, and yes, he's at home, and they're facing the Tigers, and we saw what happened last time. But Ryan Pepiot, he is a guy who gets to swing and miss a lot, and I think this is a great way for the Rays to get a lead through the first five. I personally was looking at the Rays first five money line, but just to be a little bit safer, I don't think they're losing by more than one, just in case Pepiot does have a little bit of a bad day. Because the thing about Pepiot is if he's not getting that swing and miss, he's going to be leaving them over the middle of the plate, and the Tigers can hit those sometimes. But most of the times, the Tigers bats don't really show up sometimes. And especially yesterday, they won off a big game, obviously 5-0 lead early on. They won 7-1 outright, just lit up Zach Littell. I think Ryan Pepiot gets the swing and miss today. So I like the Rays just to cover the run line at plus half a run for that half of the parlay there. And then going to Chicago for the Astros and Cubs, first 5 over 4.5 there. I think that's around minus 190. That's why I wanted to pair up with something there. And I love this first 5 over 1.5. I've seen it grow up to 5.5, and I want to stay away from 5.5. I don't think, I don't really trust, these offenses to score more than 6. Hopefully they do, but I just like the 4.5. You can play up to 5.5 if you want to for the solo play at minus 120, but I'm taking the 4.5 here to pair it up with the parlay here. And the reason I'm taking it is just because I love this spot. Obviously, first off, it's at Wrigley, so the wind is blowing out, which is obviously the biggest factor. We talk about Wrigley and the over-unders and, the terms of the scoring and how, we have to really take into account of the weather. And when that wind is blowing out, you love that over in this spot. So, and we have 2 pitchers on the mound who love to throw them right over across the plate with JP France going for the struggling Astros. I can't believe I had to say that, but man, does it feel good to say that. The struggling Astros. I'll say it one more time. The struggling Astros. Obviously, not the greatest season so far for them, but, JP France, not the greatest season on the mound for him. And, against this Cubs team that loves to hit the ball really well, I expect the Cubs to really show out as well. And then going for the Cubs is Jordan Wicks. And, we've seen his inconsistencies, and we know Houston and how they will show up as well, especially with this kind of weathery game. I expect guys like Yordan Alvarez and, Jose Altuve to show up and really make their presence known. So I'm just targeting the first 5 because I know this wind is going to be blowing in later as the game continues. So the reason I wanted to I was looking at the full game at 10 or 10.5, but I was thinking, that wind's going to come in soon, and that's going to, say, it'll be like a 6-2 ball game. It'll be at 8, and then all of a sudden it'll just stay there, and the offense will slow down as the game continues into the later half of the inning or innings or whatnot. So I'm just going to target the first 5 in that game. I was looking at the full game total at 10 or 10.5, but I didn't really like it with that weather predicting a lot of wind coming into the stadium as the game continued, which obviously is a sign that maybe just targeting the first 5 over is definitely it's definitely the path for me. So those are my 2 plays today, just all in the first 5 today. Dodgers first 5 minus half a run, obviously back in James Paxton, back in Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and the potent Los Angeles Dodgers offense. And then our parlay with the Rays first 5 plus half a run. Obviously, the Rays are a huge favorite, so you have to go into the draft book. You have to go into the DraftKings sportsbook a little bit and try to find it. It's an alternate first 5 run line plus half a run. If you don't have it, I also like the Rays first 5 money line straight up as well for that push potential as well. But I just like them to cover for this parlay, and then also as well the Astros and Cubs first 5 over 4.5. I think it's going to be a very offensive game between 2 good hitting teams in a game where the weather is saying that it's going to push the ball outwards, which means it's going to be potentially some good home runs. And obviously, it is Dinger Tuesday, so maybe sprinkling maybe a Yordan Alvarez bomb or maybe even a Cody Bellinger or Dansby Swanson. Who knows who hits one today in that ballpark. But I think that's definitely going to be one of the ballparks to target. But Ari, I've yapped too much now. I'll let you go into your picks now. What have you come up with? Obviously, we got some NBA obviously continuing with the playoffs today, but are you going to the NBA if you like anything? But I know you like some baseball today. What have you cooked up for this Tuesday?
Yeah, 1 NBA, 1 MLB for me today. Going with the Mavericks after they got embarrassed in Game 1, down 26.5, scored 8 points in the second quarter in Game 1. Second half, they put up more of a fight. It's funny in both the third and fourth quarters individually, they scored more points than they did in the entire first half. They scored, I think it was like 33 and 34 in the third and fourth, compared to like 30 in the whole first half. So I think we'll see more of the second half than the first half from Dallas. Obviously, the whole game in Game 2. Obviously, don't want to go down 2-0, even though, LA's at home, but still don't want to go down 2-0, obviously. Kawhi is questionable, so that's, that's up in the air. But either way, I think Dallas evens up the series here. I think the Clippers, especially after winning Game 1, I think they'd probably go more caution, probably sit Kawhi one more game, and then maybe have him play Game 3. But we'll see on that. But either way, I like Dallas tonight to tie up the series after, they should put up a fight in the second half, but by then they were down by too much at halftime to actually come back. So I like Dallas there. And then going to the MLB, A's, Yankees, Paul Blackburn, Marcus Stroman, first half under 4.5. It kind of worries me a little bit that yesterday's game between the two teams went 0-0 through 8 innings. Obviously that doesn't happen that often back-to-back games, but I don't need to be 0-0, just 2-2 or 3-1 or less through 5. I like the Nerfy in this game as well. I think it's like minus 115 or minus 125. But Blackburn's been dealing a 108 ERA through, I think, 4 starts so far this year. And then Stroman, a little bit worse, 2.42 ERA, but still really good. And obviously, he's facing the worst lineup between the two, obviously, of the A's. So yeah, it's pretty much short and sweet. Mavs money line to bounce back in game 2, and then backing the pitchers again. A's Yankees first 5 under 4.5.
Yeah, you mentioned the Mavs money line, and it's kind of a funny trend because obviously we all know that all the home teams are pretty much undefeated in the postseason right now. Not a single road team has won, so maybe the Mavs can finally be that first team to maybe even up a series now, as we potentially head into Game 3 for a lot of these other matches and Game 2s as well. As we continue into the NBA playoffs, but you mentioned it in Game 1 for this team for this series. Very very kind of different story. Everyone would thought that the Mavs were going to be a lot more competitive because Kawhi was ruled out really late, but obviously it was the James Harden and Russell Westbrook show. Obviously going up by almost 25 at half, and the final score doesn't reflect on obviously how dominant this Clippers team was for most of the game. But I do expect this Mavs team to bounce back, so I do like them in the bounce back spot pretty much about pick 'em for tonight's game. And then you mentioned the A's and Yankees. Yeah, yesterday was pretty much a 0-0 game through 5 as well. But you mentioned you only need a 2-2 game, maybe a 2-1 game or whatnot. Just anything under 5 through the first 5 is what you need there. You mentioned Paul Blackburn, pretty consistent all season. He's one of my favorite pitchers for this A's staff to back because how consistent he was last year, how consistent he is this year. He is pretty much the bright spot. Like Garrett Crochet is for the White Sox. Paul Blackburn is for the A's, in terms of their pitching staff. So, I usually tend to back him whenever he's on the mound for the A's. And then you mentioned the Yankees and Marcus Stroman, obviously, not as great as Paul Blackburn this year. But, when he is cooking, he is cooking. And you mentioned facing, if not one of the worst lineups in baseball in the Oakland A's, just in terms of, talent-wise and, hitting ability. So I do like that first 5 under 4.5, even though obviously you mentioned a little risky having back-to-back days. But, when you see the value, you see the value there. I know you mentioned the Nerfy as well as a potential play for you. So those are Ari's picks as well, going with the Mavs in basketball, and then the A's Yankees first 5 under 4.5. Going to my plays with the Dodgers first 5 minus half a run, and then my little parlay there with the Rays to cover the first 5 at plus half a run, and then the Astros and Cubs, big game in Wrigleyville today. I'm taking that first 5 over 4.5. That parlay comes out to about plus 122. Obviously, you can find all of these plays on our Twitter below, AKP Sports Talk. We will have all of this posted momentarily. Our full card and today's video will be posted momentarily. But that's going to do it for this episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow with some more picks, some more best bets for the NBA, obviously the MLB, obviously, as we continue into the end of April, beginning of May. I know, Ari, we're getting near the end of the NBA season, but you know what's coming soon? The NFL draft. Here we come. We are 2 days away. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a little bit of a preview, potentially, as we look at potential picks. As obviously, we all know who's going number 1. We don't even need to discuss that. But there's some value potentially of who's going 2, 3, 4. We may do a little bit of value search as we give out our best bets for potentially who may be going in that first 5 or whatnot. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much. We will see you guys tomorrow.